For those of you who don't know what Ignite Youth is, and you're just sitting here, I'll explain it to you. Ignite Youth is a Meridian speech competition in which youth share their ideas, thoughts, and opinions with the general public of Meridian. This includes mayors, city council members, business leaders, and you, the audience. We have 5 competitors today that are just ecstatic to share their opinions on different topics ranging from gun culture all the way to suicide awareness. But before we get to any of our presenters, we have to introduce our judges. We have Madam Mayor Tammy DeVeer. We have Eric Moody, owner of Creative Catalyst Leadership. And we have Dominic Gelsomino, a junior loan processor at Guild Mortgage Company. To kick off this event, we'll have we have a special guest presentation by one of our judges, Eric Moody. Please give a warm welcome to Eric Moody.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Well, my name's Eric Moody, and I'm super excited to be here. I'm a public speaker and a trainer, and I get a lot of times people are like, what does that even mean? Well, pretty much that's a fancy way of saying that I talk a lot, and they pay me for it. I know, it's great. I love it. It's so much fun to be able to do what I love every single day, and I'm just super excited to be here. You know, one thing that I do love as well is audience participation. Okay, so you guys are going to have to join in. Anytime you see this next slide pop up, just shout out the words out loud whenever it comes up here. Just shout it out. We believe in you! I believe in you guys. No matter where I'm at in my presentation, you're going to shout it out. Every single time you see that slide, just shout it out. And today, we're going to talk about belief. We're going to talk about words and how we say them and the fact that they mean things. They are powerful. Words are so powerful. Let's take this phrase, for example. Let's eat, Grandma. Right? It's such a nice phrase, and we picture this awesome dinner table and everyone's gathered around it, and Grandma is bringing her homemade apple pie. And we all love Grandma's homemade apple pie, right? I mean, Grandma makes the best apple pie. And so that phrase is pleasant, and it's kind, and it's nice. And then you have another phrase, let's eat, Grandma. You picture some morbid horror film with people wearing masks around a dinner table with Grandma being the main course. Weird, I know. You know, when I was thinking about that phrase, I thought of those KFC commercials. Do you see those KFC commercials? Like, they're just playing them over and over and over. Finger looking good. Except I thought of Kentucky Fried Grandma. Would you like her crispy or extra crispy? How would you prefer? I know, super weird. It's creepy, I know, but words mean things, and they matter, and it's powerful how we say those words. I believe in you guys, right? And belief is so powerful, and we have such a lack of belief in today's day and age. You see, the question that you have to ask yourself, what do you say about yourself when you look yourself in the mirror? What are the things that you say? Do you say things like, you're ugly, you're fat, you're no good, you're not going to achieve anything in life, you might as well give up now? Are these the type of things that you tell yourself? And then do you surround yourself with people that pick on you and put you down and make fun of you? Is that the type of people that you surround yourself with? You see, I travel around, I speak to thousands of students every single month, and what I've learned is that we are more likely to turn to things like drugs and alcohol and self-harm when we don't take the time to believe in each other. See, we turn to these negative outlets whenever we don't have belief, and we need belief both in ourselves and we need belief in each other so that we stay away from these harmful things. We have to have belief. I believe in you guys. And having belief in yourself is so important. And then also having belief in each other is as important. You see, we need to lift each other up. We need to take the time to look at each other, and we need to extend a hand down and say, I will help you up. I believe in you. I believe in your talents and your gifts and everything that you are amazing at. I believe you can succeed. You see, sometimes in life, we must believe in someone else's belief in us before our belief actually kicks in. We must take the time to believe in each other. Belief in each other is powerful. It's needed. It's important. We must believe in each other. And you know what? When we look in the mirror, we shouldn't see a little kitten. We need to see a lion, right? We need to see power. We need to see fight. We need to see the beauty that we all carry around with us every single day. That's important, to believe in yourself to that degree. You know, we need to see an Olympic champion. We need to see ourselves raising our arms with that gold medal around our neck. You see, every single Olympic champion that ever existed became an Olympic champion right here before they ever got that gold medal. We need to see that Olympic champion. And talent. We need to believe in our talent. We need to believe in our abilities. We need to believe that we can succeed in all the things that we are good at, because the fact of the matter is that you guys are the next generation. Right? You'll hear maybe people say the next generation is coming, but the next generation is here. You guys are here. You guys are powerful. You guys bring a lot of talent and skill to this world, and if we would take the time to band together, to connect, to create that positive momentum, and if we would stand together and we would stand up and say, we believe in each other. I believe in you. I believe in you. And we would trust that we can lift each other up instead of pushing each other down. We would create beautiful things. Belief matters. I believe in you guys. You guys are amazing. Tonight is your night. Tonight is your night to shine. The stage is yours, and I believe you guys are going to rock it out. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
To start off our open division, we have Robin Harper presenting on gun culture.
June 12th, 2016, Orlando, Florida, 48 people. October 1st, 2017, Las Vegas, Nevada, 59 people. February 14th, 2018, Parkland, Florida, 17 people. If you've forgotten what these events all have in common, it's an AR-15 and utter devastation. Now, I understand that me standing up here and talking to you about gun violence is almost too relevant and taboo because of party lines, but that's not a reason to let this pressing of an issue go untalked about. So let's start a dialogue. First, we'll be discussing gun culture within the United States. Subsequently, we'll address the ensuing gun violence happening in the United States right now and how recognizing both of these things is a catalyst to change. So let's start with colonial America. Most of our issues of gun culture can be traced back to these moments in our struggles against the British. We can see that soon-to-be Americans begged the crown for guns, yet they were never rewarded this privilege under their rule. Move into the war, and colonists were severely unarmed and faced a myriad of challenges. Historically, we have always justified our use of firearms for protection. Moving fast forward 50 years later to the first industrial revolution, we can see that our country moved from its agrarian roots to more manufactured goods becoming accessible, and guns were all the rage. Then, moving into the Civil War, we can see that guns were even more accessible because each fit-to-fight man needed a gun to fight for their values. We can see that, again, historically Americans continued to justify their use of firearms for their sake of protection. Then, moving into Reconstruction, each family kept their guns, namely now for westward expansion and the pernicious exploitation and assimilation of Native American communities, but that's a speech for another time. Historically, we've needed guns to, again, protect ourselves. But in modern times, to this I say, 67,740. The amount of times the presence of a gun stops a crime out of the almost 1.2 million instances of violent crime alone, according to the FBI. You can also look to the unnerving amount of exponentially expanding gun violence, especially surrounding America's schools within the last 4 years alone. Since Columbine, we've tried to push for legislation and change, yet we've only been ignored or forgotten. Look to Harvard School of Public Health and their analysis on how suicide outnumbers homicide 2-to-1, and the availability of lethal means, especially firearms, decides whether the attempter lives or dies. Look to injury prevention and the Center for Disease Control's analysis on gun ownership versus gun death. The yellow is the United States, the white is global world. We can see a clear upward trend in each of these, that more guns equals more gun deaths. So I understand that this is radical, but we don't put out a fire with flame torches and blow torches. In the very same way, it is not empirically supported to fight gun violence with more guns. And it's tied to our history of gun culture. So what do? I'm 17 years old and this is a 5-minute speech. I'm not claiming to have the answers or know what to do, but putting this issue aside only exacerbates any real steps towards change. So, one prevalent example in the status quo currently is Australia. Australia has banned automatic and semi-automatic shotguns and pump shotguns. They've tightened restrictions and licensing. They've instituted a buyback program which has cut 20% of guns from public circulation, and it's been extremely helpful. And you can see that there is an extreme downward trend after 1996 that is not related to the already falling rates of gun violence. Thus, I understand that this may be your idea of American spirit and patriotism, but this AR-15 and models like it are the very same reason that children around the country, myself included, wonder, will my school be next? Don't take away my future and my education like these 17 children and 21 adults alone this year. That's almost one for every day in February. These people were robbed of their lives. So if you get anything from this speech, it's be informed. These were the resources I used for all of this speech, and I encourage you to do your own research. No matter what you believe, gun violence is a problem. So are we going to continue to forget about it, or can we make this time different? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin, for a topic that has affected all of us and an amazing presentation. Next, we will have Kara come up and talk to us about speaking German for beginners.
Yeah, everybody probably heard 3 weeks ago some German sentences at the MAJAC, normal MAJAC meeting. Jody asked me to tell everybody to clean up the lobby, and me and my sisters had the idea just to say that in German, and I asked everybody to do that in German, and some people said, "Oh, was that another language? I don't understand, what was that?" So it seemed to me that nobody really realized that I'm not from America. I'm a German exchange student, and I live with Jody since 3 months. And I just wanted to give you guys an impression about my country and about my language. It's gonna be a presentation about culture as well as language. So you guys are gonna get the chance to talk a little bit German. First, my country, Germany, is located in the middle of Europe.
I'm trying.
No problem. We have 16 states, which are called Bundesländer. I live in Bayern. It's the state in the right-hand corner. And we have 82 point... Is it working?
I'm trying.
We'll restart, sorry, just a minute.
Doesn't doesn't really make it better if I have to speak in English.
Let's try.
Okay. Okay, now you can finally see my country, where it's located in Europe, and my state is the bluish one on the bottom right corner. Yeah, we live there with 82.6 million citizens, which is actually a pretty high number if you see that Germany has the same size as Idaho, but we have a lot more citizens. Now we start with speaking German. We have some letters and sounds which you guys don't have in your language. And before we start talking sentences, we first have to practice those sounds. So I'm just gonna say them, and it would be nice if you do your best to say it after me. The first one is The second one is Ü. Then the Then we have the C and the H are two different sounds. One is a and one's a Then the thing which looks a little bit like an S with a little bow kind of on it, or a B is a S. Here now we go to the personal pronouns. I is ich. Du is you. Is he. She is sie. Is it. Wir. Ihr. Sie. Perfect. Now, a little step in the German culture and the German government. We don't really like having presidents. We have a chancellor, and her name is Angela Merkel, and she is the head of the government since over 8 years. You can make it the first sentence done, which is the most important if you try to flirt with a German lady, and it's not the beginning anymore. If you're at the point when you say, I love you, also if you don't know if it's true or not, but I love you is in German, ich liebe dich. Really good. Also one of the things I miss the most, because you don't have it here, and me and my stomach miss it a lot. The most important German food you know here in the USA is probably schnitzel, but not the best in my opinion. We have two different really good German cakes. The one is called Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte, and the second one is called Donauwelle. Our special salad is Gurkensalat, which is made out of cucumbers, and the special food from my state is Weißwurst mit Brezel. For the information, pretzel is from Germany. And nobody ever says that here, but it's from Germany. Then I had some pictures of German candy. We have a really famous brand which is called Kinder. You have that here. Maybe you know the surprise eggs from Kinder. Yeah. Then our next phrase is Du bist mein Freund. You're my friend. Would you guys want to say that? Really good. Then the next phrase is wir gehen zusammen durch dick und dünn, which means word for word translated, we go together through thick and thin, which means more we do everything together. And if you start making a friend in Germany and you guys go together through dick und dünn, then everything is perfect. Then one really important rule in Germany is to never wear your shoes in the house. You're gonna get kicked out of the house. You can't do that, it's not allowed. And if people bring their shoes in the house, it's gonna be a Saustall. And then Germans say, das ist hier aber ein riesengroßer Saustall. Which means, word for word translated, that's a big, weird house where pigs live in. So it's the dirty, muddy place where pigs live. But it actually just means that everything is really messy. Another thing, what we Germans think, is your movie ratings. You use so many letters in your movie ratings, and we just don't. We just have 0, 6, 12, 16, and 18. We don't need that. Another really big point people are surprised of is driving. Here in Idaho, people can start driving with 14 and a half, which people can discuss about if that's safe, or if these kids are old enough to do that and take other people in their cars. We don't think so. We are not driving alone till we are 18. But we have streets without a speed limit. They're called Autobahn, and you can just drive how fast you want. But our driving tests are way more difficult, so normally everybody fails up to 3 times at least, and it's really expensive. It costs about $3,000 to get your license. Yeah. In education, we're really different too. We have 3 different levels of high school, and high school starts in 5th grade. And you have to qualify. Your grades in elementary school count, and you can make it or you can't. And you can just go to college when you have the graduation of the highest level high school. But college is free. Hals- und Beinbruch means good luck, you can do it. So if you want to make your license, if you want to drive on those streets, you need Hals- und Beinbruch, which means break your leg and break your neck. But we hope nobody was gonna do that. So that's your last vocabulary word, Dankeschön. It means thank you, and I say Dankeschön for your attention.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I think I've learned more about Germany than in my entire 17 years on this earth. I'd like to now call Kayla McNay up. She is going to do her presentation on discussing ableism within today's social media use of memes.
We'll be looking at how we are having ableism in our memes today within social media. Within the past couple months, one of the main memes that we've seen surfacing is the meme triggered, which basically shows someone serene and calm with an item, then triggered at the opposing item that shows up next. We have the rock with paper, then the rock with scissors, as well as we have Buzz Lightyear with Toyota, then Buzz Lightyear with a toy. We've also seen the idea of triggered has been adapted and modified into other forms. And as fun as this meme is, it definitely has some real world implications and some real world problems. I'm looking at the idea of how ableism is in social media, specifically in this meme, looking at the idea of triggered. So we'll be looking at the history, we'll be looking at definitions, looking at problems, and then thus looking at solutions. So we're gonna be first looking at the history. Now, most of us would think that memes just started in the last decades or so, looking at Reddit and how it's been surfacing, going all the way back to previous memes like Doge and those good old stock photos. But the idea of meme has actually been has been a long time in the past. Within 72, the idea came about as it being something used in culture. Then we had it later on looking at how when we look at the connection between technology and the internet, and then lastly we had the creation of Reddit, which really sparked the idea of memes, and that's when the term became more of a trendsetter and more of mainstream. We also look at how memes have been today, and looking at from just a couple years back, we have Doge to Harambe to looking at the Tide Pod incident that we've definitely been having. When looking at memes and the impact that it has, we can look at the past presidential election in 2016, where more than 10,000 people filled in their ballot to vote for Harambe. And yes, this is serious. I wish it wasn't, but it is. And that basically shows how much of an impact that memes have in our culture today. So we've been looking at memes, but now we also need to be looking at definitions of what I'm talking about today. And you've already heard these, but I'd love to go even more in depth with them. Like I said, we've heard about racism and sexism, but we also haven't heard a lot about ableism, as prevalent as common as it is in our culture today. We often use the terms crazy and lame to describe things. We don't recognize how it sets a hierarchy with those that are able-bodied, whether that be physical or mental, and those that are not. And we need to recognize this. Ableism is prevalent throughout our culture, and it focuses basically, like I said, the hierarchy and discrimination of those that are not as able-bodied when it comes to physical and mental health and ability. But then next, specifically looking at the idea of triggers. And with triggers, it's basically when an act, whether it be seen or heard or read, causes a response in that individual. And that typically is due to PTSD or past trauma. We can look at veterans that come back from war when we have fireworks. That can be triggers for them as it sounds like the gunfire that occurred when they had their wartime. We can also look at survivors of sexual assault, and we have those depictions on movie screens and on TV shows that can also be a trigger. We basically look at how triggering and that idea has a real world concept and is actually a real thing, not just a meme. So next, we're gonna be looking at some of those negative impacts when we link ableism with and we link memes. So first, we have the negative impact of looking at how it diminishes the topic value. We have how it diminishes when people get upset over the wage gap or being misgendered. Realistic problems that need to be recognized and not demoted. We also have the problem we have the word triggered and how it's demonized and how it's not recognized as important, as the feelings of frustration or annoyance is equitable to those that are suffering from actual PTSD. And that's extremely problematic and needs to be recognized. So next, looking at some solutions. Now, we'll be looking at those 3 solutions that I mentioned previously. With first, looking at communication education. Exactly what I'm doing here tonight, which I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to, and I'm so grateful for everybody listening. It's really important that we recognize unknown bias that we have in our culture with how we've been raised, which using the words like dumb and stupid and crazy and lame, as normal as it seems, can still be problematic when we look at ableism and its impacts. It's important that we look at communication and education, but then we also look at social media and how it has its impacts. Like I said previously, Reddit was basically the catalyst when looking at memes and how it's been used. And over the past couple years, especially in this generation, memes have just grown and grown. We see with the sites Instagram, Reddit, and Twitter, how we've had memes that have been published and we have memes that have been circulated a mass amount of times. But with limited restriction and regulations, there isn't really a cap on what those can be. But now, while there may be some, they're definitely not strict enough, and that needs to be recognized. But lastly, we'll be looking at basically empathy and understanding, and recognizing that when you quit triggering, or when you equalize triggering to just being annoyed, it diminishes not only that topic value, whether that be misgendering, or whether that be wage gap, or something that's realistic today, but also diminishes and devalues the idea of triggering, and how important it is to recognize those impacts on individuals that are survivors of PTSD and trauma. So once again, thank you for letting me have this platform to speak tonight, and although I'm not going to be able to completely change the way that you use language or the way that this generation uses memes, I hope that we will all be able to recognize the unknown bias that we have today. Thank you.
I'd like to call Brian Bodley on for his presentation titled Look Up.
So, hello everyone, my name is Brian Bodley. There's probably a lot of you who remember me from last year's Ignite Youth. This year I'm going to be tackling a more serious issue, which is suicide prevention on a day-to-day basis. Otherwise, look up. So all I'll be talking about is I'll be talking about how suicide is a big issue here in our community, how there are ways to stop it, but are we really working on them? And then lastly, the importance of looking up and seeing other people. And so, first off, how big of an issue is it? We live in a pretty good city overall, but suicide is a huge issue here. Most of us don't realize it is, though, until something like that happens to us or to someone close to us. And so, even though we don't necessarily recognize it, we have to realize that suicide is a big issue. For instance, it's the second leading cause of death for young adults here in Idaho. And if you look at the national levels compared to ours are high, very high. And then 7,000 attempts in 4 years. That's horrible. But if that isn't close enough to home for you, in that same 4 years, 105 students, Idaho school children, committed suicide. And even now, 1 in 5 high school students report considering it. But why don't we see this? We see the statistics. We see the devastating effects that this has on families and our community. But why don't we make the connection? Why don't we see the warnings? Why don't we prevent this? Well, to sum it up simply, I'm in a hurry to get things done. Rush until life's no fun. We all lead busy, hectic, even crazy lives. But do we ever stop to think about how others are managing their journey? Are we so caught up in our own problems, in our own profiles, that do we forget to think about how others are doing? Do we stop and help when someone else is having an off day? Or do we keep walking down that hall? So how can you help? Well, simple, look up. Put down your phone, quit worrying about your problems, and worry about someone else. People all around you are having off days. Look up and help them. And how can you help? Oh, oops, I'm on the wrong side. Anyways, so what if all the people who normally after suicide say, if only, what if they actually did what they said they would? Suicide would disappear overnight. What if just one person for each suicide actually comforted that person? We could stop suicide at its source. And so what will help? Anything really. Just give them a compliment as you pass them in the hall. Sit with them at lunch if they're lonely. Even just a simple hug or saying hi will help because it lets them know tomorrow is a new day, like Snoopy here. And why does this work? It's because people want to belong. People want to feel needed, to have purpose. And by showing that you care about them, you give them a new sense of purpose and they realize that their effects or their actions do affect other people. And so what should you look for to help others? Well, obviously being nice doesn't hurt anybody, and I would generally recommend it. However, there are signs that indicate that someone might be struggling with suicide. If they're talking about wanting death, that they're a burden to everyone else, they're withdrawing from their normal activities, or they're just acting strange, off, depressed, and so on, that can be an indication that they're thinking about suicide. However, every person is different, and everyone reacts to their trials differently. No one sign is 100% effective. So what's the most effective way to help people? Just be nice and caring to everyone around you. That way, you may not even realize you're helping someone, but you are helping. So here are some ideas. Say hi to 10 people you don't know every day. Use your phone for something productive. Get on, text a friend or loved one, and tell them how much you value them in your life. Give them a hug if they need it. Sorry, that was loud. And so if they drop something, help them pick it up, or any other issue that they're having. Sit with someone new at lunch every day. Write a bunch of nice notes and put them on random lockers. The list goes on. And these are things you can do in minutes that could save someone's life. And so this is my challenge. Put down your phone. Put down your profile. Quit worrying about yourself. Worry about someone else. Be the reason someone smiles, but more importantly, be the reason someone lives. Okay, and now you've heard this, and that's good, but you have to do something. You can't stand by and wait. You have to do something. And though it's true that you may not be able to help everyone, everyone can help someone else. And if everyone helps someone else out, suicide disappears before it ever hurts another person again. Thank you all for listening to my presentation. I hope that you will all take action and just take minutes a day to save someone else's life. And most importantly, look up.
I'd like Harley to come up with her speech on 4 keys to an authentic life.
So, I am I'm Arlie Bledsoe, and I have a blog called Authenticus, which means authentic in Latin. And basically, I wanted to come up with something to use as the core of my blog. So, this is the 4 keys to an authentic life. So, you always hear be yourself. It's on like every preteen shirt splashed with glitter. And it's kind of a cliche by now, but it's so true. So, what I'm going to show you through this presentation is how you can actually be yourself, not in a cliche way. So the first thing that you have to do to have an authentic life is care, and there are a couple ways that you have to care and a couple people you have to care about. So the first one is going to be yourself. A lot of times we think about caring for others, and that is definitely one of them. But when we don't care for ourselves, we can't help others the way that they deserve to be helped. So caring for yourself, you need to do that in 2 ways, physical and mental. So physical, obviously, is eating healthy, drinking a lot of water, getting sleep, that's a big one, and exercising. So shout out what you guys do to be physically healthy, somebody. Good, yeah. So I like yoga and working out, so there's a lot of different ways. And the second one is mental. So this is also just as important. You can be super ripped and horribly mentally healthy. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are. So mental health, you have to do things that you like and enjoy, so you're actually a happy person. And you also have to care about others, just as important, if not more, as caring about yourself. So just do things to go out of your way, like Brian said, and have kindness for other people, and just care about the people in your life. So the second thing you have to do is create. I believe that as humans we were meant to create, and in many ways it's not just the things that you always think about like painting and drawing and those artisty things. It can be anything like building, writing, solving math problems, growing things like in a garden, and it can be the normal things like painting. What do you guys do to create? Shout it out. Nice, yeah, woodworking, that's a good one. I think my dad does that. So yeah, I love writing. And a way that you can always be creative is you have to be a lifelong learner, because you can't create without material to create from. So one way to do that is reading, but if you hate reading, I'm sorry. And you can listen to audiobooks, you can watch videos, there's so many ways to get information so you can create. The third thing is connect. These are all C's, if you haven't noticed. And you need to connect with people in different ways. And the first people that you need to connect to is through relationships. So again, we're meant to have relationships as humans, and it can be romantic or not. And these are so important for just our well-being, and we need to be encouraged and supported by other people. So another way is getting involved in your community. I love doing this, obviously, so I think it's great, and it just makes you feel really connected to the people around you and gives you some stock in the place that you're living. So just do that whenever you can. And also spirituality, I believe is really important. As a Christian, I love doing my devotional. It gets me inspired every day and praying, but I think it's important to connect to something outside of yourself and bigger than yourself every day. So the fourth component in an authentic life is courage. So courage is what it takes to implement all these things. So you can't create or connect without courage. So this is one of my favorite quotes. To be nobody but myself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make me somebody else means to fight the hardest battle any human can fight and never stop fighting. And that is by E.E. Cummings. So again, back to the cliche, be yourself. I think this says that better than that little phrase. And one way you can help yourself remember this is to get a tangible object that will remind you to be brave every day. I have a necklace that says brave, and I'm actually not wearing it right now, I meant to. But it does remind me to have courage in my life every day. So I would encourage you to reject the status quo. Nobody ever really did anything awesome by just being normal. The definition of normal means not extraordinary, so I would not do that if I were you. And you should be authentic, which is the whole point of this presentation. There's only one you in this world, and the world needs you. And that is why I want to advocate for everybody, and I want everyone to know that you can contribute something to this world. And this might seem kind of like a lofty thing, like a life goal, but today you can care, create, connect, and have courage, and you don't have to wait. And you can just implement this in your life through little changes and little things you do every day. So, you are amazing, and I'm done.
One. And it is time to announce our winners. In third place for the 2018 Ignite Youth is Brian Bodley. In second place for the 2018 Ignite Youth, Caleb McNay. And in first place for the 2018 Ignite Youth is Robin Harper. And there is also a cash prize of $100 for the suicide prevention presentation that the judges deemed was the best, and that goes to Brian Bodley. Thank you so much for all attending tonight. It has been a wonderful evening, and we'd like to thank our sponsors, Idaho Central Credit Union, Idaho Power, First Interstate Bank, and Kathy Chambers State Farm Insurance. Thank you so much to all of our judges, our sound techs, and our witnesses, and our presenters. Thank you and good night.